is she was actually using social media to create a community. But not only create a community, but to use that as a vehicle to write a historical project. These sort of 21st century skills are what we are doing in schools and starting to try to teach students. The idea that history is not just narrative, history is not just content and knowledge, history is just as importantly critical thinking. It's the ability to think through, to question and to ask, what is the other side to this particular primary source or whatever. What Caylie has very effectively done, and I must admit, the first substantial example I've seen of this is use 21st century, as I said, means to create a virtual community. If we think about it, in the past, community, and which is what this is based on, would be you'd be interviewing people who were still alive in that area. Now we have the great ability to create a community where people can participate who might live in Roma, or dare I say Townsville, or in London, and say, I remember 30 years ago in Milton, blah, blah, blah. So we start to see a virtual social community being created. But it's also, because our lives, people move so much now, people don't stay in the same space or the same place. And so it's that almost tragedy where communities that existed when people were younger become fractured. Social media has helped to stop that, or help to rebuild or bring back together those communities that may no longer have existed. So I think this is a wonderful example of, as I said, 21st century historical writing and investigating. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this sort of thing. But the other thing I must admit, I have to say this, Caylie, is when I was speaking with Leanne Edmondson, who wrote that wonderful Q Weekend article for you, and I don't know where it came from. Sometimes you say things, you don't know where they come from. But I did mention the word historical crack. And I thought that was a lovely phrase for this particular project. And by that I mean, it engaged people in such a way they became so addicted to the whole project itself. That in itself shows that there's once again this zeitgeist, this sort of need for people to want to participate and want to be involved in the history and the historical telling of their community. So historical crack, I love that phrase.
So you own that?
I own that, but I don't know where it came from. But, there you go. But just to finish off, Caylie's always had a very light and engaging writing style, and it obviously reflects who she is as well. And Under the Lino is a great contribution to our local history canon, and for that, and for the people of Brisbane, thank you, and well done.
Thank you so much, mate. Okay, kiddies, just to make this really clear, historical crack is good, crack the drug is bad. Okay, we're just going to go. Now, we've made reference already a number of times this afternoon, this beautiful launch of this magnificent setting. Our next guest speaker has an absolute passion for Queensland architecture. Please join me in welcoming Magnus Eriksson. Okay, do we truly have to ring the bell for Magnus? I just want to ring the bell.
Is anyone seeing Magnus?
Okay, well, Magnus is MIA. I'm sure, without further ado, we want to hear from the woman of the moment, don't we? Yes? All right, I think it's time we raise the roof with this one. Please welcome, what's her name? Please welcome Caylie Jeffery.
Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you to the beautiful speakers, John, Peter, and my dear friend Glenn, and Magnus, who's not here, but you'll read all about him in the book. And thank you, all of you, for coming today. I'm absolutely blown away by the amazing turnout on a wet and windy day, but that is Brisbane. I mean, that is who we are. That is this community. I knew that you would want to be here to share in this moment with me and the rest of you. You're all friends in some way, you just don't even know it. The person that you're sitting next to, you might have had a conversation online with them about your great-grandfather who used to work at Webster's Biscuit Factory, and you don't even know. So hopefully today you'll all get the opportunity to have a bit of a chat with each other over some champagne shortly. What I would like to firstly say thank you to absent friends. So there's, hello! Thank you to absent friends and the ghosts of our ancestors. That includes the traditional dwelling people of this land and the ghosts of people who used to reside here when they first came out from as convicts and as free settlers. There are lots of people who would love to have been here today, but they couldn't, and so I'd like to acknowledge those people as well. There are really too many people to thank personally, so I'd like to do a blanket thank you, but really to thank my husband, David. And our two beautiful children, Kitty and Will. Many of you might not know this, but 19 years ago we walked down the aisle in this beautiful church and got married here. And it's very special that this all came about today. And it was all a bit magical how it happened. But you'll read about that too in the book. And I would like to thank the staff and Stephen Clark for having us here today and welcoming us back into the community. We are neighbours. If it weren't for the Archbishop wanting to build this beautiful stone chapel, we would never be here today. So that's a very circular journey that we've come on. The original wooden chapel was in disrepair. I think it might have even burnt down, and so they needed to build a beautiful stone chapel, and that's what they wanted to do. So they sold off the houses on Huesler Terrace, the land on Huesler Terrace to build houses, and the land on Baruna Road as well. So our house was built in 1912, and the money from the proceeds of that land went to build this beautiful room we're in now. So had all of that not happened, Arthur and Eleanor Webster would never have hidden that money under their lino. We would never have bought that terrible house and spent the next 20 years doing it up, and we wouldn't all be here today. So you are my community, you are the people who I have built around me during the last year and the last 30 years of my life, and I'd like to thank you all. Now, there's lots of synchronicities and ghosts that have appeared during the journey of Under the Lino, and I'm not really one to believe in those sorts of things, but I will announce in public that I now do. Too many odd things have happened, including that one of the chapters in the book was called Nearly Meeting Professor John Pern, and about 2 days before my lovely printer Ben here sent the book off to be printed, John miraculously jumped into my life and I had to rewrite the chapter. I did actually meet John Pern. So things like that happen. Now, there's some other people here today that have really special, and they've been really helpful with the book. And again, I'm not going to thank them all personally. They know who they are. But there's been like my family helping me get the book together. When you self-publish, when you do it yourself, you do everything. You write the book with the help of all of the researchers, but then you get it printed, you get it edited, you edit your own book. You then, once you get the book land in your driveway by one man who's trying to take 2,000 books off the back of his white van, you help him unload those books. You store them in your house, then you sign them, then you realise that there's a mistake on the first page, so you realise you have to sign over that mistake 2,000 times. And then you realise there's a mistake in the last chapter, and you tell everybody that instead of feeding the village, you want to feel the village. And then you have your amazing mother, I don't know where you are, there she is, changing the feeling into feeding. So most of you will have a book today that has got a handwritten D in the back of the book. And my mum did that. Woo! And your little brother comes over because he wants to help, and he helps you put all those books together and pack them into boxes and make them available for you today. And it goes on. So this is my immediate community, and then it's spread far and wide. I've had people helping me at no cost. They have not charged me a penny. They have read the book, they've edited the book, they've proofread the book. I've got Perry Morcombe, who's here today. He's a member of the Morcombe family that we know so well. And Perry has a very interesting part to play in this story that refers to a murder that happened at Milton State School. And Perry also loves to correct my spelling. And bless him, in emails he would write back to me, because often I'm writing emails from my phone, right? So how many spelling mistakes? And he would write back to me and say, Caylie, to answer all of your questions, this is the answers. And by the way, I've redlined all of your mistakes. And so, of course, I said to Perry, well, you must proofread this book. And he said, of course I will. And so I blame Perry for the fact that I was feeling the whole village. I see you. Now, today, I'm supporting two charities. The book supports two charities. One of them is SANS, the Stillbirth and Neonatal Death Society is its original name. Now, I've been a family member of SANS for many years. My mum is a midwife and a baby artist. She draws pictures of babies who have gone before us. And this weekend is a National Pregnancy and Infant Loss weekend. Before the big day, and I'm actually emceeing the SANS Walk to Remember tomorrow at New Farm Park. And there's a very significant chapter in the book where I'm talking about the people who used to own the money that I found underneath the lino, Arthur and Eleanor Webster. Their family are here today, the Murphys and the Websters, and it was very, very important while I was writing this story that I paid homage to these people. And when you're writing about other people, you have to write carefully. And even if you're writing about people who didn't do such great stuff, you still have to be careful because they're related to people who are still alive today. And that is one of the pitfalls of historical writing, I guess, because sometimes you can't just, sometimes you have to sit on the fence when really you just want to say, oh, that guy was nasty. He was a nasty piece of work, when actually we don't have the full story. So finding out that one of Arthur Webster, who used to live in my home, wasn't such a well-renowned fellow for Queensland Rail was a difficult discovery because I knew members of his family. And but then I found out that Arthur and Eleanor had lost a baby at 10 months of age. And that changed everything for me in that moment when I realised that these were people who had survived 2 world wars, they had lost a child, they had gone through all sorts of suffering in their local community, losing friends and family members in both wars. Who am I to sit there and judge why these people are angry? Why was Eleanor Webster hiding money underneath her lino? It's not my business. So the way I've structured the book is to ask people to think a little bit more, just use a little bit more critical thinking when you're looking at different issues in your life and looking at your own family history. Don't make big rash judgments because you don't always know the full story. So, one other thing I need to tell you guys is that on Wednesday, a friend of mine, Brenda, came to visit me, and I've been looking for the coveted Webster's biscuit box for so long now. And Brenda turned up on my doorstep with a Webster's biscuit box. And she found it and she gifted it to me, which I've had so many beautiful gifts from people like Lynn Cox, her time, her energy, her love throughout this whole adventure. and I now know that it was Lynn who dropped a pair of these earrings into my letterbox that have a tiny little map of my house on Huesler Terrace on there. So not only have people been, you know, so generous with their time and assistance, I've been gifted little things. I've been gifted beautiful words, kindness, people calling me all the time. How are you going? Do you need a hand? Can we do anything for you? And really, you are my community, and I want to say thank you for all of your support. I could not have done it without you, and I would tell you that I'm never doing it again.
Liar.
Okay. In the media game, we call that a segue. So, Caylie, what is your next project?
Well, last Friday, when I thought I had finished with all of the books and everything was ready for today, and it was a rainy afternoon, and sat down on the couch with a glass of wine, feeling quite happy with myself, David came home from work, waved a soggy letter in front of me that had been sitting in the letterbox for 2 days in the rain. And it said it came from the Victorian Minister for Transport. And I'm like, that's very strange. Why is she contacting me? So I opened the letter. I have it here. And it says, Councillor Maddock, you need to listen to this very carefully. Dear Caylie, I am pleased to advise you that you have been successful in your application for a retired Melbourne tram.
Look at Dave's face,
Following the completion of expression of interest process run by VicTrack over the recent few months, there has been a very strong interest from the community in these trams, with over 1,500 applications received for the 134 trams available. As an interstate applicant, you will be charged a fee of $1,000 per tram. Woohoo! I can do that. But you will be responsible for covering the cost of transporting the tram from Newport and relocating it somewhere in Brisbane. So, yeah, I've got a tram.
Girlfriend, what I said to you when you said you're writing this book, you're nuts. So we now have the tram lady. We're calling it the Gypsy Project. Dave's going AWOL for the next year. So if you see a tram in the middle of Gregory Park, you'll know who owns it. Councillor Maddock. Well, we have a community library and a community garden. Can't we have a bloody tram in there?
Yeah, why not?
That's a yes.
We'll find a place for it somewhere.
We're on the record. Councillor Maddock has committed to finding a place for the tram. That might be in Wilston, but we'll find a place for the tram.
Oh, there's a bit of space at the back of the old Bishopsbourne just down there. It's really good.
Caylie, just to wrap up, we would love as a whole to once again congratulate you.
Thank you.
And also to ask you, what would be the takeaway you would love your readers to glean from your book?
Probably what I said earlier about being careful when you're doing research and when you're thinking about writing about anything or anyone. I didn't say, but I got a beautiful letter from a new friend of mine, Edwin Murphy. Edwin's sitting in the middle of the room here, and Edwin is actually the first cousin of Morgan Webster, who used to live in my house. His mum and dad were Arthur and Eleanor Webster, so Edwin's aunt and uncle. Edwin and I became very friendly when we were talking about this project, and I found him through the white pages, believe it or not. And he and his beautiful wife Gloria and their daughter Penny have been amazingly welcoming to me and to their family. And he wrote to me to, this is why I took so much care, this is the reason I took so much care. He said, "Dear Caylie, I am humbled as I read the story of your home at 86 Houston Terrace, Milton, and your truly heartfelt writing built around its original owners and occupants of 76 years, my Uncle Arthur and Auntie Nellie and cousins Morgan Webster and Colin, now deceased, and what was discovered under the Lino during your renovations. Your duty of care, I believe, has had a high benchmark, which you and the Under the Lino group have maintained throughout this project, for which I thank you in your references to the Websters. There are facts that I have welcomed, and these I have had to be told. I concur with you in these words. It's sad that I didn't know Eleanor better, because for me there was 60 years difference in age. I too would have yearned to spend more quality time in her presence. That is what I'm going to give to you now, is to spend quality time in the presence of your elders. There are people in this room that I need to spend more time with, that I love very dearly, and I would like you all to just make a little mental note that you will ask your elders, children, grandchildren, everybody who's in this room has an elder that they should respect and admire in the community. Spend time with that person, your mum, your dad, your grandparents, and find out their stories. Write them down, record them. You know, turn on your smartphone onto record when they're talking one day, even if they don't even realise it, because that stuff is just so precious, and that is my take home for all of you today.
You referred to two charities. You mentioned one. I just thought you might like to just outline your second.
Thank you. I'm glad someone's on the ball. My second charity that I wrote about in the book is the Daniel Morecambe Foundation. The Morecambe family has been incredible helping me with the story I talked about earlier with the murder in Milton, and Kim has helped me make that happen, and the Morecambe family is just incredible with their generosity to this community. So when we go down to have some champagne and some food and tea and coffee, I'll be signing books and selling bits and pieces down there. But there are bookmarks, and I'm asking that if any of you want one, can you give a gold coin donation for a bookmark today, and that money will be shared between the Daniel Morecambe Foundation and the Stillbirth Association of Australia. Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. And to finish off our wonderful launch today, we have a very special treat for you. Behind me is a fabulous band called Gone Molly. Oh, right here. And Sally has been integral in helping Caylie with the social media side of things. This incredible group, in its first year, has won 3 awards, Celtic Awards, and they have a very special performance for you now, which they have catered directly to Caylie. So I'll leave them to finish off the launch. I would like to say thank you for all braving the rain and coming together. Ernest Hemingway famously said, "When writing a novel, the writer should create living people, not characters. Characters are simply caricatures." I'm sure you'll agree, Caylie has done justice to the living and those that have passed. And we are truly proud and honoured to be with you today. Thank you. We'll see you all.
Hi everyone. Now, this is awesome weather for folk musicians, can I just say. It's the Anglo-Celtic variety. We feel really at home, and also in this beautiful place. Thank you so much for coming today, and we are so appreciative to get this chance to somehow make a link between our music and Caylie's book. And really that link is a love of history and a love of words. So we're going to do a couple of songs for you. The first one is really about celebrating people who have passed, history, and it's called Instructions for My Funeral. Oh. Don't worry, it's not happening yet. jar, and the band play till the empty bar. When I'm dead, don't cry for me, don't talk of what I could have been. And if you have loved me, then please love again. Make the end a new beginning when I'm dead. When I'm dead, don't worry no more. Light up the fire and dance to the dawn. Wear your heart fierce and give yourself free. Live like there's nowhere that you'd rather be. When I'm dead, don't cry for me, don't talk of what I could have been. And if you haven't loved me, then please love again. Make the end a new beginning when I'm dead. When I'm dead, don't let me fade. Tell of the mischief and merry I made. Keep the songs played and pour the black beer. Bid me adieu without shedding a tear. When I'm dead, don't cry for me, don't talk of what I could have been. If you have loved me, then please love again. Make the end a new beginning. Make the end a new beginning. Make the end a new beginning when I'm dead. Thank you very much. I think we'd all like to be remembered somehow, which is why I'm so enamoured with Caylie's book. Now, we've got a choice here, right? Because I know there's champagne and food waiting, so we can do 2 songs or 1 song. And I need a little bit of feedback. So, if we do 2 songs, 2. Well, one of them's going to be a bit rude. Is that okay? I mean, not rude, but just a bit funny, naughty. Anyway, look, we're going to do it. Here we go. We're in the shadow of a brewery over there. We're talking about history. We're talking about people do naughty stuff, right? Any naughty ladies in the room? I mean, apart from Rebecca.
Yeah, there's one.
See? Right. We're not talking about naughty ladies yet. My dear friend Lachlan Baldwin, who's recently joined us, will be playing the naughty person in this song.
The role I was born to play.
This is for anyone who's ever worked behind a bar. Welcome, stranger, to our inn. Tell me your desire. With the finest ale in England and a city by the fire. Hang your coat there by the door and rest your weary feet. You'll feel a good deal better when your belly is replete. You'll feel a good deal better when your belly is replete.
Well, I've just come in from Belgium and I've got a thirst to quench. So come and sit upon my knee, you pretty little wench. I've been to public houses from the border to the coast, and I know what tavern girls are like and what they like the most. Who knows what tavern girls are like and what they like the most?
Well, thank you, sir, you're very kind. What is that you say? Your knees are very nice, but I've got work to do today. We've only beer and victuals here and shelter from the cold. Now might I see your money, sir, if I may be so bold?
Show the girl your money, sir, show the girl your gold. Bring me ale, dark and pale, and plates of meat and bread. And when I've had my fill, you're on my shoulder up to bed. What's that you say, the rooms are full? Well, that won't bother us. We'll slip out to the stables, cause the horses never fuss. We'll slip out to the stables, 'cause the horses never fuss.
I'm sorry, sir, there seems to be a miscommunication. Serving ale and dinner is my only occupation. Now tell me please what you would like from crockery or glass, or I'll have to call my brother to evict your sorry articles.
You know you want to.
No, I don't.
Oh, yes, you really do.
And there's nothing I can say to him to get the message through.
Well, I'll show you how.
I'm busy now.
I'm such a strapping chap.
Well, go and strap whatever you strap. And please stop talking crap. He's not really like that at all. Mr. Lachlan Baldwin, and I'd also like to introduce the beautiful Rebecca Wright, one of Australia's most respected cello singers, who I'm very, very chuffed that she keeps being in my band. Rightio. So our last song I am dedicating to our wonderful Caylie. The many of you here who know Caylie know she's one of a kind. She's a gorgeous person, she's funny, she's completely unique, and what I love about Caylie is that she is just absolutely herself. She is who she is. So I wrote a song a couple of years ago about another lady who just was who she was. Her name is Moll Cutpurse. She was born in the 15th century in London, and in her lifetime they wrote 2 plays about her. She was so famous. She was a very naughty lady. She did all the stuff you weren't allowed to do back then. She wore men's clothing. She was apparently the first woman in London to smoke. She was a very successful businesswoman in lots of illegal activity that I won't mention in front of the children. And Molly just fascinates me. She lived to a ripe old age and she wrote about herself before her death, so you can really get an insight into who she was. She fascinates me because she didn't care what anybody thought about her. She just was who she was, just like our beautiful Caylie Jeffery. Now, before Molly died, she wrote these lines. I'd like to be buried breech upwards so that I can be as preposterous in death as I was in life. This is a little ode to Miss Molly Cutpurse. Twice. The written gaffes about me, but
please can you all give a wonderful hand to Kim Skubris, my beautiful dear friend who helped me today. She has been my rock and I love her dearly and I just want to let you all know. Okay, thank you.